Describe the 3 generations of balanced scorecards. First generation BSE, second generation BSE, third generation BSE. BSE was initially described as a simple 4-box approach to performance measurement. In addition to financial measures, managers were encouraged to look at measures drawn from 3 other perspectives of the business: learning and growth, internal business process, and customer, chosen to represent the major stakeholders in a business. Simple causality between the 4 perspectives was illustrated but not used for specific purpose. Kaplan and Norton's original work makes no specific observations concerning how the BSE might improve the performance of organizations. It's been found that generally, the first generation are still being developed and that they probably still form the large majority of BSE designs introduced into organizations. There were 2 main practical difficulties associated with the first generation. These were filtering, the process of choosing specific measures to report; clustering, deciding how to group measures into perspectives. Perhaps the most significant early change translated the attitudinal approach to measure selection proposed initially by Kaplan and Norton into a process that yielded a few appropriate key measures of performance in each perspective. A solution was the introduction of the concept of strategic objectives. Initially, these were represented as short sentences attached to the 4 perspectives and were used to capture the essence of the organization's strategy material to each of the areas. Measures were then selected that reflected achievement of these strategic objectives. Although subtle, this approach to measure selection quite different from that initially proposed, since strategic objectives were developed directly from strategy statements based on a corporate vision or a strategic plan. Another key development concerned causality. Causality between the perspectives had been introduced in the early first generation. Second generation BSE saw the idea of causality developed further. Instead of simply highlighting casual links between perspectives, internal documents from one consulting firm's work in 1993 shows an early attempt to indicate linkage between the measures themselves. In the mid-1990s, BSE documentation began to show graphically linkages between the strategic objectives themselves rather than the measures, with causality linking across the perspectives towards key objectives relating to financial performance. This is based on a refinement of the second-generation design characteristics and mechanisms to give better functionality and more strategic relevance. The origin of the developments stem from the issues relating to target setting and the validation of strategic objective selection outlined above. These triggered the development of a further design element, the destination statement, initially at the end of the design process to check the objectives, measures, and targets chosen. The first destination statements were created as a final consensus estimate of the consequences at a particular future date, for example, in 3 years' time, of implementing the strategic objectives previously selected for the strategic linkage model. By agreeing in this statement how much of key things would have been achieved by this time, for example, headcount, revenues, customer satisfaction, quality levels, etc., the hope was it would be subsequently easier, for example, to check for or set a consistent set of annual targets. It was quickly found that management teams were able to discuss, create, and relate to the destination statement much easier, and without reference to the selected objectives. Consequently, the design process was reversed with the creation of the destination statement being the first design activity rather than a final one. Furthermore, it was found that by working from destination statements, the selection of strategic objectives and articulation of hypotheses of causality was also much easier, and consensus could be achieved within a management team more quickly. The balanced scorecards that incorporate destination statements are referred to as third-generation BSE.